Hey everybody, so I just watched episode 5 of Alone season 11 and it was a pretty crazy episode, a lot of things going on. So last episode we see Timber got right up on this moose and it opens this episode, he gets to take a shot at it and he hits it and it's a good lung hit. He says that he can hear bubbling, which means that it struck the lung. It's basically choking on its own blood, drowning on its own blood. And that, guys, is hunting. So, you know, it is what it is. If there's, I'm a member of PETA, People Eating Tasty Animals. If there's any other ones out there, give me a like. And let, you know, comment, all this good stuff. Just know that that's hunting. Hunting is brutal. That's how you live. If you're one of those people that would prefer to eat the chicken that comes out of the grocery store, just know that some machine, and maybe not have been a human, it was some cold, heartless machine that cut that chicken's head off after it was raised in disease with a bunch of other chickens. Just to let you know. You know what I'm saying? Same with cows, pigs, anything that you eat that comes from the supermarket was probably killed in a less humane way than that moose. Just quick thing there. So that's a monster moose, man, and it's a beautiful animal. He says that there's no way he could turn that over, and believe me, there is no way that you're going to turn that big moose over. You got to work on it side to side. So he starts butchering it. He's doing a great job. He said that he does have experience butchering large animals, so I don't think he's going to have a problem with it. And he's actually doing it with his multi-tool. So that's a blade about as long as my finger. So 2.5 inches, 3 at the most. That's a small knife to be cutting up a moose. But that's the choice that you make, and that's what you got to deal with. We don't know exactly how long it took for him to butcher that moose. I'm sure it took a while. But he says that he's worried about grizzlies because of the fresh kill, the scent in the air. He says he's going to start a fire so that the grizzlies will know that there's a human there, which is a smart idea. But at the same time, a hungry grizzly might just see that, you know, it's bigger than you and could probably run you off pretty easily, or have 2 kills, you know. So either way, it's a dangerous thing. He not only has to process the animal, cutting it down, he also has to haul that animal. That, you know, it didn't walk up to the side of his shelter and die. He said it's a mile round trip. It's a long way to pack out meat. And once, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, once you get it back, you've got to store it for a little while until you build a smoker. And once you build that smoker, then you can start smoking meat. And then you have to store it again. It's a process out there. He said he wants to build a cache the bears can't get into. So after that, it jumps to Michela. She's drying her toes with charcoal. And she's powdering it up and sprinkling it on her toes and using it to soak up moisture. Charcoal is really good at that. It's also really good at absorbing bacteria and killing it and stuff like that. If you didn't know, even, you know, you put charcoal in filters of all kinds, air filters, water filters. There's charcoal in there, and there's a reason. It's because it's so good at absorbing all that bad stuff. It will help on her feet. It will actually help. It drying it up will help keep it from peeling and blistering, and just having that powdered charcoal there. Although it can be abrasive, so you got to watch out for that. So it might chafe you a little bit if you wear it all day, every day. But it also helps kill the bacteria and helps prevent fungal infections. So just a quick survival tip there. So she's made a trail for game to follow. She says that it's, the strategy behind it is animals, just like humans, will take the path of least resistance, just like it's autopilot. You don't look into a forest and see a trail and say, you know what, I'm going to walk through the trees. No, you follow that trail. So she's going to set her traps on that trail. And that's a pretty smart idea, especially she says that she's seen some rabbit signs, so animals are starting to move on that trail. So she says she set a lot of rabbit snares, but she hasn't had any luck yet. But that's all part of it. Luck is a major part of survival. When she starts to head back to her shelter, she sees a grouse in a tree, and she takes not only one risky shot, but 2 risky shots shooting up in the tree. Luckily, she did have those big feather flus, and they came down. She was able to find them, but she missed the bird. It sucks that she missed the bird. I'm grateful that she found her arrows. Arrows are very important out there. So then it cuts to Timber again. Timber. I'm reading and trying to talk at the same time. Timber is finishing butchering and moving his kill. He said he's focused on building the cache. You gotta be at this point. Almost everybody would say you killed a moose, you won. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say that. I always thought that it would be really cool to see either 2 people get big game kills, or 1 person get a big game kill and someone else win. I always thought that would be a little twist. Timber, if you're watching this, I'm not saying anything bad. I hope you did really well, man. That was a monster moose, and I'm proud of you for taking that moose. Not saying anything bad. I'm just saying I have said that before, and I have to stick to it. You know yourself that it would be an awesome little twist. So he's cutting into the bank to build his food cache, which I think is a good idea, because at first I thought he was going to cut in and then bury it, and bury the top of it, so that would keep a little bit more cool air in and keep it from just getting too hot. More temperature control. He said he's going to make it bear proof, and my first thought is, me sitting on the couch down here, that nothing is bear proof. I don't know of any one thing that's bear. A car is not bear proof, and that's made out of metal. Well, mostly metal now. He finishes it up. He said he thinks it's enough, but he'll see, and that's just the way it is. I hope I hope this is enough to sustain this food, to keep it safe, but we'll see what nature has to throw at us. So then it cuts to Jake, and remember, Jake had burnt his hand, and when it cuts to him on this one, he's talking about an injury that he had to his tailbone, and I'm pretty sure that it was pre-drop. I didn't quite catch it. It gets loud sometimes, but I'm pretty sure it was pre-drop. And he's having to deal with a cracked tailbone or broken tailbone while he's out there, which has got to suck, because having a broke tailbone, it's like you don't even want to sit down. Even laying on it hurts, So that just adds another level of difficulty for Jake. So he goes to check his net, and he sees 2 fish in his gill net, which is awesome. And he says he's got the spot, So there's some big fish in there, 2 big fish, and one of them had a big burbot in its mouth, which is awesome. So that's 3 fish at one time, because either the net caught the burbot and the burbot baited the pike, and the pike, caught the pike with the burbot in the net, or the pike grabbed the burbot and was swimming and got in the net, and it's 2 for 1. So either way, it's awesome. Just a quick tip here: if you ever catch a carnivorous fish, check its stomach. If you're in a survival situation and you catch this fish, look in its stomach, see what it's eating, because they don't, there's probably going to be another fish in there if it's not empty. Whether it's a little fish or what, you can cut that out of the stomach, wash it off real good. You can eat that too. You know, so another survival tip. I might have to get a little ding going on somewhere or something. I don't know. I'll come up with it. Isaiah said I should go and have the little thing pop up at the bottom, but I haven't figured out which sound they use. So then it comes to Dub. And Dub is building a chimney. He said that he's building a chimney on the shelter. He said that the last night got pretty cold. And so he's going to work on his shelter. He's using wattle and daub. Wattle and daub is extremely tough and durable if it's done right. It basically, you can make bricks out of it, and they did make bricks out of it. But most of the time it's just packed up around a little stick frame. But it's super durable, super strong, and it's earthen. So earthen is a better insulator, you know, so just another tip. He's talking about it, which is crazy because we just saw Timber take him loose. And he's talking about it's not the right time to take big game. It's too warm, you know, it's just not the right time for him. And it looks like, because he's getting prepped for the winter, it looks like his shelter is doing pretty good. He's built it small. It's tight, which means he doesn't have to have a big fire to keep it warm. Even his body, the temperature of his body, his breath, just breathing, will help keep that warm. And so it's small, but it's thick. It is packed dense with insulation and then covered with a tarp. So I'm pretty sure that will retain some heat, you know. Then it comes to Isaiah. And he's showing his nieces and nephews how to brush his teeth with charcoal. Yeah, it's like I said, it's abrasive and it kills bacteria. It absorbs bad bacteria and it kills them. And it's also abrasive. So it's kind of like brushing your teeth with baking soda toothpaste, you know, except for it tastes like charcoal. And it'll dry you out if you use too much of it. You want to use just a little bit. Then he starts working on his fireplace. He says he's going to call his shelter the bunker, you know, and it kind of looks like one right now. He said he knows how to just shut up and color. And that's a military thing is what he's saying, but I think that means he knows how to just do it and just deal with it and just do it, you know. We call it the 3 ups, you know, it's shut up, or it's show up, shut up, and keep up, sorry. The 3 ups. And that just basically means do it, don't complain, just do it, deal with it, you know. He's made a nice fireplace, but it's big, but it has to be because of the size of the shelter that he's building. It will not heat enough, and it's hard to heat enough anyways, but it will not heat enough if it's small. So he's built a big fireplace and he's done a great job at it. Everything looks pretty sturdy and pretty stable. And once he burns it a couple of times, all that dirt and mud that he's packed in is going to dry up. I do wish that he would have mixed some straw or some grass or something like that in with it because it would help it hold together better. But he's got it packed up on the outside with sticks making a wall. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to do a pretty decent job at staying together. He said he hasn't ate, but he doesn't feel like it, and he's just going to go to bed. It's crazy because once you get to a point where you haven't had a whole lot of food, it's kind of like you're hungry, but you're not hungry. Like I can go till tomorrow without eating. It's because your stomach has shrank for one, and then you've got the mentality of your mind is trying to switch itself into, I don't know if I would call it fasting or just survival, where it's trying to make that thing that sucks so bad suck less in your mind. So it kind of tricks you there. You still, if it feels like you're not hungry, if you have food, eat it. The best place for food is in your belly. Same with water. The best place for water is in your belly. You know, that's where it's going to help you. It's not going to help you hanging next to you. It's not going to help you running around in the forest. All right. If you can get food, get food. Even if you don't need, if you feel like you don't need to eat, eat. You know, especially if you haven't had anything in a couple of days. I think it's said since day 6 or 7, he had no protein, and that's 11 days of no protein eating berries. Because I think they were on day 18. Again, the alone time frame is a little rough, but eat. It shows Isaiah listening. He's laying in his bag, and it's nighttime, and he's listening to the wolves howling. And he says that he's scared of wolves, which is a smart thing. You should be scared of wolves. A wolf is not that bad, but you get about 5 of them together, and they will not be afraid of you. It doesn't matter what you have; they're not going to be afraid of you. So, a pack of wolves, hungry wolves especially, that's something to be, you know, threatened by. So it's smart to be afraid. Well, I was always told, don't be scared, but don't be stupid. You know what I'm saying? Don't be scared of the snake, but don't try to hold it at your face. You know? But he doesn't want a pack of wolves coming through and ruining his day. So that's something that any smart, intelligent person can kind of, you know, relate to. So he didn't get much sleep. Said the wolves were at it pretty good. He didn't get much sleep. But he gets up. He decides to push hard and get his shelter done. He builds walls inside. Sorry about my blocks over here. My son likes Minecraft, and I like making things for him. So these are all a bunch of Minecraft blocks that I'm painting up for him. But anyways, he builds walls inside his shelter, and he packs them up with dirt behind them and stuff like that. And it's actually making more insulation while reducing the size of his shelter, because his shelter was pretty big. So it's actually reducing the size of his shelter plus adding insulation. So that's a smart move. So the whole bottom of it, the whole lower half, is already well insulated. It's still big though. He said he's happy that he can stand up in it, and being able to stand up in your shelter is great, but at the same time, from experience, these smaller shelters that are just big enough to hold your heat in is probably the way to go. Cuts back to Michela again. So she found a bird's nest, and she explains to everybody why a tinder bundle is called a bird's nest, and kind of walks through it. And the bird nest that she found, if I find an empty bird's nest, if it's got eggs in it, of course you don't want to destroy it because it's got eggs in it. But if I find an empty bird's nest, late summer, early winter, you know, whatever, I will use it as a fire starter, because it is a well-made fire starter. And it's, you know, it's amazing to me how a bird can make that. And I mean, let's say you weave a bird's nest, and the little bird can pick up sticks and everything, tie them together to make them work. And but anyways, I will use them as a tinder too, as a fire starter, ready made. Don't have to work for it. She continues to build her shelter. She says it's small, but it's a sacrifice for warmth, and that's, like I just said, that's a good thing, a good mentality to have. I would rather sacrifice only being able to lay in my shelter than be cold. That's just the bottom line, especially there. That, in the Arctic Circle, that's serious. Cold gets serious there too. So she talks about a rough time in her life and how nature healed her, or helped to heal her. But talks about how she got through it. That's a beautiful story. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody. So she hears some rustling going on, and then commercial break. I love that. You know, oh, this is going to happen, stop. It always sucks. But after the pesky commercial breaks, we see her, and she is talking about, she hears a marten getting a rabbit. And so she runs down her trail and scares off the marten, and there's a rabbit. You know, the marten killed the rabbit for her, which is awesome. Another way for the land to give something back to you. All you have to do is keep an ear out, you know. So she gets to claim the rabbit. She takes it back to her shelter and starts cleaning it. And she explains the Cree way of teaching is hands-on. There's no written language. It's hands-on learning, which means that you have to be present. You have to do it to learn how to do it. And that's something that has been lost in a lot of places. Nowadays, you just watch a YouTube video on how to do it, and there, you know, you go out there and you struggle with it for a long time, trying to figure it out on your own. When it's so much simpler for somebody who has the knowledge to say, "This is how you do it. Do it like this, and it'll be hard. Do it like this, it'll be easy." You know. And you're standing right there with them so that they can watch, because nothing is ever the exact same. So it's a good way of learning, hands-on. Get out there, get hands-on. So she says that she's able to teach people now, and that's awesome. She's able to share her knowledge, and she has an extensive knowledge. So she's able to, we see her eating a rabbit, and she's able to enjoy that rabbit, a gift from a thief, you know, the rabbit from the marten, the gift from the thief. So then it's back to Dub, and Dub's doing some fishing. He's doing handline fishing, and he says he's doing handline fishing for whitefish with whitefish, and he's hoping that they become cannibals, practice cannibalism, so that he can catch a fish. And he said that he's about ready to practice cannibalism himself. And he was just joking, I hope, maybe. It's Dub. So then he looks down, and there's a fish right at his feet. And I thought that was pretty cool, because he's sitting there fishing, and you can actually see the water move in front of him. He didn't get it, though. I wish he would have. That would have been a good little part of the story. But then it cuts back to Timber. So he's saying there's a mink in his catch, and it's eating his moose meat, of course. But he runs it off. He goes out there and he runs it off. He talks about how the animals go for the fatty parts, and that's because that's what you need to survive, is the fatty parts. You know, if you look at a fish kill, if you look at a bear where it's ate a fish, all right, a lot of the times they eat the skin and stuff like that off the fish. They're not actually all that worried about all the meat. You know, that's for the birds to eat. They want that nutrient-rich, fatty parts of the fish. You know, so that's all animals know, that you have to have that fat to survive. He says he needs to go ahead and render the fat, or tallow. I don't know. I'm pretty sure, seeing that is an ungulate, it is tallow, because of how precious it is. And it really is precious out there. He says it's hard to make things mink proof out there. He needs to make containers to hold his rendered lard. And the way that you render lard, it's not all that hard. You take your fat. It's a lot easier when you're doing it in a kitchen, if you can freeze the fat, like almost freeze it. Put it in there for, depending on how big it is, put it in there until it's good and solid but not frozen. And you cut it into little bitty pieces. The smaller the pieces, the better. You put it in a pot, you put it over some heat, not real hot heat, just some heat, and it'll start to melt down. And then you can skim it. And whenever you're done, it's like the cleanest lard that you've ever had. Anyways, he's making lard containers out of birch, which is an awesome idea. I probably would have, looking at it, I was like, man, that's a great idea. I probably would have made like a birch bottle like little birch containers, you know, every bit of that big, and maybe even did like a little pine pitch or something like that around the bottom, something to hold it tight. And because you can actually just about get that bark out of a piece just by working it, and you can get it off solid. But even if you couldn't, you can still kind of waterproof it enough to keep tallow in it, especially if you let it cool a little bit before you pour it in. Of course, time is of the essence for timber. But I mean, he did a great job. He made those containers, and now he can put that up somewhere safer. Not safe, but safer. So maybe he can have that and he can start frying his meat in it. That's another thing, having that fat. You need to incorporate that fat into as much of your food as you possibly can. So cooking your food with that fat, it will benefit you tremendously. I mean, you can just take a fingerful of fat. It don't matter, but it makes your food taste better if you fry it in that fat. He's going to use the big shelter that he's made to smoke the moose. He hasn't moved into it yet. It's a good idea. You can smoke a lot of moose in that, but he's worried that there's been some bear tracks going through, and he's worried about it being that close to camp. But like he says, you have no other options. You have to do what you have to do when you have to do it. And right now he has to smoke that meat, store that meat, and protect that meat. So it is what it is. He's cutting the meat really thin, and that's a good thing. That's something that I've seen people hang whole pieces of meat. I actually cut my grouse breast really thin and hung it and made jerky out of it. I didn't really smoke it. I dried it and made jerky out of it. If the thinner you cut it, the more that smoke's going to penetrate it. You want to leave it a little thick so that it doesn't just turn it into a rock hard piece of meat, but at the same time, the thinner the better. One way that I've done fish is you leave the skin on the fish, you scale it, leave the skin on the fillet, and then you just slice to the skin in like 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch increments, and all the way up. And then it makes it to where whenever you hang it over something, that meat opens up, and it can really, that smoke can really penetrate it. Then he talks about how much of a religious experience this is for him, and how nature is bringing him closer to God. And it's the truth out there. It is a very religious experience, a mind-opening experience, eye-opening experience. So then it cuts back to Dub, and Dub is having a rave, and he's doing a really good job at it. I can honestly say that I love Dub's attitude. Dub is an awesome character. I think that he could really go far in this with that playful mental state that he stays in. That's actually a really great tool to have for this game. It seems like his fireplace doesn't have enough draft to it, and that's hard to achieve, especially with the basic materials out there, and if you don't have an extensive knowledge of the way that a chimney works. But you have to have the chimney. It's best to have it a little bit higher than your shelter, if at all possible, because the higher it is, the more it's going to draft out, like the more it'll get pulled up. Usually in our modern world, it's 10 feet taller than the highest part of your house. That's how high your chimney has to be. That's by code, everybody, that's by code. But out there, you know, just a little bit, a foot will make a huge difference. I had a fire pit. I didn't have a chimney. I just left an opening at the back end, just a small gap, so that it would suck it out, that one little peak, and it suck all the smoke out. And it did a pretty damn good job. But building a chimney, you need it, first of all, you need it to be, your chimney, if you're building a wattle and daub chimney like that, you know, even a block chimney, it needs to be pretty big on the inside compared, you know. I mean, if you got a fireplace this big, you know what I'm saying, then your chimney might need to be this big so that it sucks up some. But once you have a little bit bigger fireplace, it needs, I would say his chimney needs to be about that big around, just almost enough where you can stick your head in it for it to draw that smoke out. With that being said though, you have to build a bigger fire for that, for it to push that heat out, for the ground around you to absorb it, for it to radiate. But it's not going to choke you to death. Smoke inhalation is very serious and it will hurt you, even if it doesn't kill you. You damn sure don't want to go to sleep at night with a shelter full of smoke. All right, that it is a killer. If it doesn't kill you, it does cause long-term problems with your lungs. Lack of oxygen. Anyways, worth a Google if you haven't. Look it up. It's smoke inhalation is serious, even if you're awake. It's serious. But I think he'll get it figured out. I hope so. He goes to check for his fish, and we see him setting a spring pole. I've used one of those before. They're really neat. And he does a great job putting this thing together. I don't know how long it took him. It didn't look like it took him very long. Probably took him longer just to find the stuff to do it with than to actually make it. But he did a really good job putting that spring pole together, and it worked awesome. The way we know it worked awesome is because he caught it on camera. Oh man, that was so great. I don't think we've ever seen that before, where he actually catches the fish on camera on the spring pole set. Oh man, it was an awesome thing to watch. I was so happy that he got that on camera. Thank you, Doug, for the setup. So while he's setting that up, he gets a hit on his other line. He goes over there and pulls out a nice pike, and it's awesome too. So while he's working on the pike, he gets the pike up there. That's when his trap starts off. We get to see that trap work, and it's like I said, it was an awesome thing just watching that trap actually catch that fish. If you've never built one of those, do try it. Try it in a pond or something like that. Whatever fish you're going after, it's easier with a baited line, of course. You're not going to throw out a spinner bait and just let it sink and wait. So be smart about it. Put you some bait on there, but they're really neat the way they work. Then it cuts back to Michela, and Michela's going to get water, and she sees a family of swans, and they're already getting a little up there, so you can tell that winter's coming in. They're trying to get ready to get out of there. She tells us about wanting a family and wanting the family to appreciate what she does, like she wants them to follow in her footsteps, to be close to nature, and that's a wonderful thing. It shows her making a squirrel pole. So she leans the pole up against the tree, and she stops for a second and kind of takes a breath. And I didn't know what she was going to do, but then she reveals to us she's having some problems. She's struggling emotionally. She's been struggling mentally with the isolation of being there, and that's true stuff, especially when you've been around people for a long time. It really hits you, and I mean everybody's been around people, but it really hits you, and it hits you hard. And once you start getting those thoughts, that's a rabbit hole that is so hard to climb out of. It takes so much grit and determination to overcome those thoughts. But she says that she's torn between staying and this is my words, not hers. Please watch the episode if you haven't. But she's torn between staying and being alone. When the commercial break ends, because we all love those, she checks her gill net and catches a huge pike. But then she just lets it go. When I saw her do that, I said, yep, that's it for her. I've only seen that one other time. I want to say it was on season 2. I cannot remember her name. but she let that salmon go. When she lets that pike go, and you can tell that she's really struggling emotionally, and that leads to her tapping out. She was talking about understanding and how she can say she understands now, you know, and for what that is in her mind, she can say she understands. And I think now she understands more what she needs to do, not what she wants to do, and where she needs to be. You know, it really is a hard thing being out there by yourself, and I don't care who says what in the comments. Oh, you know, if you don't think you're strong enough emotionally, then you shouldn't go. Dude, get out of here. It's a hard thing to be out there and be alone, and especially when you start trying to get into your head. You don't mean to, but as soon as that starts happening, it's a downward spiral from there. It's hard to get out of your head. It's hard to focus on things. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I had a lot of emotional problems out there that weren't videoed, and because I didn't want that to be out there, but a lot of them were, because you can't help it. You start getting into your mind, start thinking about this and thinking about that, and before you know it, you're sitting in the dark crying, saying, man, I just want to go home. But then again, you got that prize money to think about, you know. So that being said, Michela, you did a great job. You did everybody proud. You did yourself proud. I hope you're at ease with that. And I hope you're in a better state now. You know, I hope you're back home. I hope you're doing everything that you set out to do when you started this journey. And I wish you the best. Don't let anybody say anything about, oh, you tapped out because of this. Man, they weren't there. They will never know. I've been there and I'll never know. You know, so keep your head high. You did a great job. You know, in those 18 days, you taught me a lot. You taught me a lot about the Cree, and I appreciate that. And I have I already had a respect for indigenous and native peoples, but now I have a better understanding and a deeper respect. So thank you, Michela. Thank you for everything you showed. And, you know, good job, man. Good job. So to wrap this up, we saw the preview for the next episode, and it looks like somebody is going to be tapping out over a med check. That's something we haven't seen, but I don't think we've seen that. We didn't see it in season 10, so I think this might be the first one in 2 years. So, really looking forward to see who that is. Not being an asshole about it, but you know, you gotta watch the show. It gives you hints. But man, they play with you like that, don't they? So you never know. I can't wait to see who it is. And man, it just sounds terrible to say that. I can't wait to see who it is. But you get that excitement of what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? Why are they getting medically pulled? What's the reason? So I get sucked into it too. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. There'll be more interviews. There'll be more of these. Hopefully some other different videos. So check them out, and we'll see you guys later.